Welcome back. So as I said, Bootstrap is a very easy to use framework and there's a lot of great examples out there. So as a pretty new developer, I think Bootstrap is always a great choice because it's very easy to get started. It's very easy to get a lot of documentation, a lot of help. Figuring out how to actually use Bootstrap is fairly a good way to get started. Now, if you don't want to pick Bootstrap, there are other frameworks out there. Another one that I've kind of looked at is Materialize. Materialize, I think what makes a huge difference in my mind, and what I really like about Materialize is that built-in, they just have more animation built in. Like when you click something, you have these small blink effects right here. Again, you have the blink effects. You can start looking at the different hover effects that are available. If we start looking at something more interesting, you have Parallax, for instance, built into the system. Let's just try and open the demo right here. You can see that you have this scrolling image behind the scene, right? So you can see the image kind of gives you kind of a feeling of moving over that image. You have, there are actually a lot of things that you can start looking into right here if you want to. When you do the drop down, for instance, you'll see they kind of swipe in or swoop in from the side. There's a lot of great things about you get out of the box with Materialize that I feel. Notice right here you have this kind of, whee, there's this new feature available, thingy magoo. There's a lot of things. You can go and check it out. Now, Materialize is just another framework for building and helping you write components and adding some CSS from you out of the box, right? So it's just Google's way of making some kind of UI framework. So this is a second choice that you can do. You can use the Bootstrap framework, or you can use Materialize. Those are pretty strong frameworks for making a web application if you don't want to build the CSS and the HTML components from scratch, okay? But you can also choose to use that, of course, and build it from scratch yourself. So what else do we have? Well, if you want to use Materialize in Angular, you have two choices again. I think that's worth talking about. The first one is NGX Material. This is a framework that is being kept alive. Let's just go to the GitHub again. It's being kept alive, but it's actually been, the last update is 25 days ago, right? So it's not, it doesn't seem like it's being manipulated or being maintained as well as Bootstrap was, where we talked about 1 day ago, right? There's a good list of issues right here as well. So there is some information here you need to understand, that when we use this, there might be some things that just doesn't work out of the box, right? But it's a good framework. I've used it and I've actually encouraged people to use it, so I'm not that concerned about it. Now there's one thing, it seems that they're still running with Angular 6 and we're using Angular 7 now. So let's just hope they get that updated soon. But right now they're actually running with Angular 6. So that's one choice you can do. The other choice, well, actually let me wrap this up, because another concern I have with this framework right here, as I started using it, is I think they could be better at explaining and on how to use it. Actually, I think their examples and their demo right here is not, it's not that good at explaining how to use their components, right? So the examples are pretty limited. When you need to do something more than just showing a button. They could have made better documentation. So that's one choice, but I still think it's a valid framework and I'm going to try and use it. Even though I feel it's a bit more complex, I'm going to try and use this one. I think this is probably the hardest one to use. The second choice would be Angular Material. This is something, again, from that actually Bootstrap and Angular works together to maintain. And again, if you look at this, it's a day ago since they made an update. They are working with Angular 7. They do have all the same piece of information. And I think this is a stronger setup to actually use if you want to be more secure. And I'm not sure, I'm kind of considering which one to use. And since they are actually now using Angular 7, right? They actually started using Angular 7 now. Let's just have a look again in their package.json file and see what version of Angular they say they're using. Right, they're using Angular 7. So if you want to build a production-ready application, maybe go with this. And I'm just sitting here and actually changing my mind. So let's try and use this actually instead of NGX Material. Now again, there's nothing wrong in any of the frameworks. It's just I feel when I looked into this and I started to use this a little bit, I felt there was a lot more documentation. It was a lot easier with their guides and their documentation, and that's extremely important when you're a new developer to a framework, that you get as much help as possible. You don't have to dive into your code yourself, and that's actually, I think you have to do that a bit more with this framework right here. So I'm going to skip that one for now. I'm going to jump actually and use Angular Material 2 instead, and see if we can get that up and running. Just a choice, people, just a choice. I think Materialize, there's not that many it's getting there, but they don't have as many cool examples out there as Bootstrap does. So you'll also have to kind of figure out a lot more yourself when using Materialize versus Bootstrap, where you can get a lot of help. So in kind of a way of saying, depending on your level of expertise, maybe Bootstrap is the first place to go, and then we go into Materialize. And when we go to Materialize, maybe Angular Material 2 is the first place to go, and then NGX is the second area if you want to use that framework, right? So that's just my point of view. But now let's try and install Materialize in the next lesson. Now you kind of get an overview about the two frameworks. See you next time. Have fun.